According to eTail Insights, a website that tracks online business trends, they estimate that there are approximately 9.1 million online businesses in the world, with more than 2.5 million of them in the United States. Veronica Romney is on a mission to ensure that online entrepreneurship has a chance to flourish and thrive. She considers herself to be the dream team architect, helping online entrepreneurs dial into human resources, develop phenomenal company cultures, and profitable bottom lines. She's a former speaker and trainer for Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, and the former chief of staff for mega brand BossBabe. She joined me this week to discuss online entrepreneurship, her speaking prowess, and success in business. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn all about your business, entrepreneurial, and professional journey this morning. Thanks for a few minutes, and it's delightful to see you.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and you're welcome, and I know that you have spent some time as a speaker and working to coach people on how to reach their fullest potential in business. So I'm wondering if you can give me sort of a 360-degree view of what makes you so professionally fabulous.
Oh, gosh. Well, the thing about what I've done and what I continue to do is I've never, ever strayed from my boyfriend marketing. Like, we have been in a very long distance, long-term relationship for over 15 years. And I've seen marketing, and I've seen marketing centric organizations from almost every perspective or angle that you can imagine, whether running the department, architecting a team to support marketing efforts. I mean, building marketing leaders, you name it. So I certainly carry a perspective that is not just corporate. It's not just online entrepreneurship. It's a cocktail of all of the above.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me, how do we complement a vision with a perfect marketing rainmaker? I'm curious.
Well, I think, our poor visionaries, they start a business, a founder, they start a business because they have a dream, they have an idea, they want to solve a problem, they want to take care of their family. Like, they're going to do the hard thing. They're going to go forth and try to make something out of nothing. And it gets very lonely very quickly to do all the things or make all the decisions. And I think the goal is always to invite more people to your table to carry that load, to share that mantle. But sometimes in bringing more people around you, you don't know how to do, how to invite people in a way that you don't compete with them, that they complement you outside of just even personality matches. And so one of the things I tell my visionaries is your job is to determine where this company goes and why. But you want to invite people around you, like a marketing rainmaker, like a director of operations, that can carry the how and the who, so that you don't have to worry about the people part or the execution part, that you can stay in that visionary seat.
Yeah, so Veronica, I'm going to share something with you. So I was born with what's called a spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally, and one of my professional passions and part of my background is to help people with disabilities find and maintain employment. And one of the things I help them with is marketing. So tell me, how do you think we can make marketing more inclusive to better promote individuals with disabilities and their strengths?
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I think marketing for so many years, I think what was so sexy about marketing was the idea that you could just put a funnel up, you could do an epic automation or workflow or this or that, and you can sell without somebody having to sell for you. You can take out the manual components of it. And I find in 2022 that what marketing desperately needs is a reinsertion of humanity, of empathy, of creativity. That's what is working. It's not removing yourself further and further from people, is to remove the heart of a brand or a business. And just like you stated, like everybody's in a different life circumstance. Everybody is in a different situation. And I think sometimes marketers forget that when you're telling the world that they can do it, you might be the only person telling somebody that they can do it. Like you don't know what people's personal situations, whether it's physical limitations or even lack of emotional and mental support at home, like you don't know what people's circumstances are. And I think that we forget the moral obligation that we carry as marketers to remember that sometimes we're the only ones telling somebody that, yes, your dreams are possible. And yes, they are certainly worthy of your pursuit.
Yeah, and to that point, how do you think we turn rock star leaders into great strategic thinkers?
Well, number one, you have to want to do that, right? You have to want to invite other people who have ideas and a difference in how they execute ideas around you. So for me, my goal when I'm working with visionaries or I'm working with aspiring rainmakers, like a big part of what I do in some of my programs is I teach them how to like coexist and not compete, how to complement one another, but not rub each other the wrong way or to accidentally cut each other's legs from underneath them. There's space for everybody's ideation and strategy, but how you create those environments requires structure and training and development for sure.
Absolutely. And tell me, what is your vision on how to develop a winning or collaborative company culture?
Oh my gosh. So I have been very blessed to have worked at some really amazing organizations that loved me, supported me, embraced me and my colleagues and all of the variety of personalities and backgrounds and everybody's uniqueness and quirks. And then at the same time, I've certainly been in organizations where company culture was not a priority and it was not equality and it was not, you are here because you choose to be here. You're here because I made you be here. Like it was an interesting experience to experience the highs of a really amazing workplace, but also some of that workplace trauma that we don't want to talk about too often, but certainly happens. And so for me, a company culture that is phenomenal, that is worthy of expansion is where you celebrate individuality and there is extreme ownership by all involved, starting at the tippity top all the way to the tippity bottom, right?
Absolutely. And just a follow up in terms of how do you think we scale businesses to reach their maximum potential?
Yeah, so it's funny because there's a quote that's like, growing a business is done by generalist, scaling a business is done by specialist. I think there's certainly goals for businesses that like when it's you and a whole bunch of help, that will only get you so far. When it's you and a bunch of leaders who can shoulder the mantle of responsibilities for growth, that's when you start to unlock the difference between a growing company versus a scaling company. We don't want to just keep adding things to keep making more money. We want to like actually stop adding more products and offers and services and still make more money. But that requires everybody internally operating from the same playbook and having leaders take responsibilities for their outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the fascinating things about you, Veronica, doing my research is like, no, you used to be a speaker and trainer for Tony Robbins. And I know that you talk a lot about connectivity and making sure that people reach their maximum potential. So tell me about that experience and how you help people stay connected. I'm curious.
Yeah, the timing of all that was insane. So yeah, Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi are business partners and really did something pretty magical called the self-education revolution. And they really were empowering people to position themselves and honor the fact that they actually do have experience that is, if not even more worthy than just like a textbook from college, right? Like formal institutions are not the most forward-thinking organization that you can learn how to run a business from. Sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of the times, you can compress decades into days. That's very Tony Robbins-esque to say, by learning from doers, not just like studiers. And so I was a part of that. I was a part of that kind of self-education revolution. And they offered to their own community an opportunity to be a speaker, to share that mission and vision on more stages beyond their own capacities. And so that happened, December 2019. Out of 650 applicants, I made it to the top 5. And then we were off to the races in 2020. And then COVID happened. So it was an interesting twist. But instead of doing physical stages, what ended up happening with the speaking team is we started doing a ton of internal workshops, 2-day, 3-day, really, really incredible workshops where we were training people how to like package their own knowledge and sell it to others who are wanting to just be, a further ahead in their journeys.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about an interesting twist, and I'll just share a quick story. Veronica, it was the week before COVID started, and I was about to start a job for our provincial Chamber of Commerce here in Ontario. I live in Canada, and COVID hit, so my contract got suspended, so I had a chance to sort of reinvent myself, and I created this podcast, and 2.5 years later, we're almost at 500 episodes. So tell me, in your view, what does it mean to have a successful business pivot and the importance of being nimble in business?
Oh, you have to be. You absolutely have to be. And it's your job as a marketer to have a pulse on the marketplace and what the prospect needs. And so if you know that the industry is getting fatigued out on courses and having some course shame because they bought a whole bunch of courses during COVID and never finished, then maybe course is not your next offer, right? Like there's so many different examples that I could give of the importance of meeting people in their journey where they need you most, as opposed to trying to force somebody into the chapter. Like if people are on chapter 2, you're not going to do well trying to get them into your chapter 10. And I think that's just really, really important that people remember that your job isn't to have them enter your narrative, but for you to enter theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. And you classify yourself as the dream architect. So tell me, what do you think that means to you?
Yeah, so Dream Team Architect is a very affectionate term and title that actually was given to me. I did not come up with that. I had a former employee at BossBabe who called me a Dream Team Architect. She's like, I was a part of the team this dream team, marketing team that you architect here at this company, and I have thrived and learned because of your leadership and what you've done. And then, of course, because I'm more marketing centric, I immediately went to GoDaddy. I was like, is this available? Is this because I love how it sounded, and it was. And so but it's actually a title that was given to me by an employee, and it means a lot to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, since you've had experience in leadership and positions of leadership, how do we just finished Women's History Month, and I'm curious to ask you about how we get more women in positions of leadership and power in business.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend Heather about this recently, and it's and I don't even remember saying this, but she said, that's such a good line. I'm like, what line? She said that I made a comment about how empowered women empower others women. And I think there's something to be said. Like if you're in a position, if you're in that top tier leadership and you're a female, we know what it took to get there, and it's not easy. Like there are few seats at a table that you often find a woman sitting in, unfortunately. And that's just a number of reasons. I'm not trying to hear on any kind of political platform, but there are fewer women, period, end of story, than there are male leaders. And so if you are a female leader, I do find it to be a responsibility and ethical obligation for you to empower other women to join you at any and all rooms and tables. And I think that's just really important, that we help each other out, as opposed to having a scarcity mindset where if I don't take it, somebody else will. No, there's enough room for all, and we can make room if we need to.
I call it pulling out the chair of inclusion, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Everybody has a voice to be included, for sure.
Absolutely.
And just a follow-up to that, what do you think is your definition of true business diversification and inclusion?
Oh gosh. So for me, it's like maybe because I grew up in South Florida, where if you live in South Florida, if anybody lives in South, you know how diverse South Florida is, and how and you have people from all over the world that come immigrate. Like my parents are from Cuba, right? Like so, I grew up in an area of the world that is known and celebrated for its massive diversity in culture and backgrounds and socioeconomic differences. And so for me, when I started my business, it wasn't even like a thing that I had to consider. It wasn't even like an intention. It was my reality that I grew up with, that my parents exposed me to. And so I recognize that not all employers have that similar type of upbringing. And so, because I know that I do, and I know that I am inclusive, and I do love to have diversity in my teams, I don't want to have the same person with the same ideology and beliefs that I do. That doesn't help me be innovative, right? I am very, very, very aware that the best ideas come from the most diverse rooms.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, Veronica, I'm very big at sort of celebrating the wins in life, whether they be personal or professional. So tell me, when you're not working, or even when you are working, how do you recenter yourself and remember to celebrate the progress that you've made?
Yeah, I'm a worker. I will always be a worker. I really enjoy I think Shonda Rhimes said once, the hum, like the beehive hum. Like I really enjoy a good day's worth of labor. It really fulfills me. However, I also really love my time with my family and my family relationships. And so I don't ever put, like, the center of my universe is not my work or a job. The center of my universe has been my husband and my kids and my family. And then everything that I do and all the choices I make need to make sure that that center doesn't get replaced, that everything centers around it and circulates around it.
Yeah, absolutely. And my final question for you this morning has to do with your own personal or professional legacy and how you want that to be defined.
Here's my thing. I love supporting entrepreneurs. My parents are entrepreneurs. I'm an entrepreneur. I understand how hard it is, and I understand how lonely it can be, and I also understand how oftentimes we get burned and we get taken advantage of, and it's really hard. And there's some really hard moments where I've sat in my office crying as an entrepreneur and a founder. However, I am deeply motivated by helping team members stand taller because of the work that we do in their workplace, but that serves them for eternity in their life.
Absolutely. And I lied. I have one more. In terms of online businesses, so many people have the capability to start a business, but I'm wondering, is it just your perspective on sustainability and making sure that online businesses are not only visible but sustainable as well? What do you think the key is to that?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question, because online entrepreneurs are some of the most burnt out, fatigued out, crispy individuals I've ever met, because we don't take breaks. I mean, even athletes take seasons off. It's really interesting, if you the amount of mental aerobics and Super Bowls that we play on a given month, week, year is enormous. It's not physical, but it's all internal. And so we don't give ourselves physical breaks for those mental Olympics. And I think that's a huge problem, is that we have to promote ourselves. We have to give ourselves raises. We have to give ourselves some PTO.
Absolutely. And finally, tell me, Veronica, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
Yeah, on social, I'm just V Romney everywhere. And then if you want to hang out with me and some of my programs or get to know me better, you can just check me out at veronicaromney.com.
Fantastic. Well, I have to tell you, I really enjoyed this conversation and engaging in conversation with you about online businesses, entrepreneurship, and business diversification. Your work in the space and time on my behalf is most appreciated, and I want to thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, sir.